It happened faster than the mind could process, metal twisting, glass shattering, a sharp scream cutting through the hum of suburbia. My daughter's car, a silver Honda Civic, spun sideways at the intersection of Birchwood and Maplewright. Outside our HOA's main gate, Karen's white Lexus was in the middle of the road, horn blaring, window down, her manicured hand still gripping a smoking handgun. The world went silent after that. I remember the smell, first gunpowder and burning rubber. The kind of scent that stays in your throat long after you think you've swallowed it. I ran from my truck before it even stopped moving. My badge was under my shirt, but right then, I wasn't the county sheriff. I was just a father watching his heart-patient daughter bleed from the shoulder. Clutching her chest in shock, Karen stood frozen in her Lexus, eyes wide but not with remorse, with defiance. She cut me off. She screamed before I even reached the car. She was threatening me. I have it on video. No, she didn't. But I did. The dashcam in my daughter's car had been running since she pulled out of our driveway. It caught everything from Karen tailgating her for 2 blocks, to the brake checks, the obscene gestures, and finally, the moment she pulled the gun. But in that moment, I didn't care about the footage. I just wanted my little girl breathing. Paramedics arrived first, small-town responders, who didn't yet know who they were dealing with. The deputy on scene, young, nervous, asked me to step back. Then his eyes flicked to my face and froze. "Sheriff Walker," he stammered. "Treat it like any other scene," I told him, my voice calm, clipped. "Bag the weapon. Secure the perimeter. Get statements." Karen was pacing by her Lexus now, talking fast, waving at neighbors who'd started filming from their porches. She was reckless. She was trying to ram me. "You people saw it," she shouted, desperate for allies. The same people she'd bullied for months, ticketing them for garden flags, fining them for mismatched shutters, now turned their phones on her. By the time detectives arrived, she'd lawyered up and retreated inside her gated driveway. I stayed with my daughter at County General through the night. The bullet had missed her heart by an inch, lodged in the upper shoulder, close enough that the trauma surgeon called it a miracle with terrible aim. When she woke up, pale and trembling, she whispered, "Dad, I thought she was going to kill me." I promised her she wouldn't get the chance. The next morning, Karen went on the HOA forum, claimed my daughter charged her vehicle, and threatened her safety. She framed it as a self-defense case, tagging our neighbors, even posting blurry screenshots from a fake camera angle that didn't exist. That's when I knew this wouldn't be a simple criminal case. It was going to be a community war. You see, Karen wasn't just another entitled neighbor. She was the HOA president. She'd been running this place like a private kingdom for 5 years. Falsified fines, selective enforcement, and personal vendettas, dressed up as safety regulations. And now, she was trying to hide behind those same bylaws. The HOA board called an emergency meeting the next evening. I wasn't invited, but I went anyway. The room was packed, neighbors, whispering. The board stiff behind their long oak table. Karen sat at the head, arm in a sling, face painted with self-pity. "I'm the victim here," she declared. "I was attacked in my own community." When she saw me step inside, she went pale. I didn't raise my voice. "Your gun discharged on public property," I said evenly. "You shot a heart patient who posed no threat. That's not a dispute. That's felony assault with a deadly weapon. You have no jurisdiction here," she snapped. I looked her dead in the eye. "I have jurisdiction everywhere in this county." The room fell silent. I didn't arrest her, then I couldn't. Conflict of interest. But I filed my report, turned over the footage, and let the DA handle it. Meanwhile, I started my own quiet investigation, not as sheriff, but as a father who'd seen too many people like Karen twist the truth until it bled. So, I started digging into the HOA's meeting minutes. Her gun permit records, her traffic citations. Every breadcrumb led to something uglier. The HOA had been covering for her suppressing complaints, waiving fines, even deleting security footage from the gate cameras. She thought she'd buried her trail, but she forgot one thing. I know how to follow one, and I wasn't about to let her get away with shooting my daughter, or with poisoning the neighborhood we'd built from the ground up. This was no longer about revenge. It was about proof, and proof was something I never lost. I started where every cover-up begins, with the paperwork. Karen's version of the shooting was plastered all over the HOA's online forum by sunrise. She called my daughter a reckless youth, claimed the car swerved toward her Lexus in a fit of rage, and that she discharged her weapon in self-defense. The problem? Her timeline didn't line up with the 911 call logs. She claimed it happened at 7:42 p.m. The dispatch record had it at 7:36. 6 minutes may sound small, but in law enforcement, 6 minutes is enough to break an alibi in half, so I pulled every second of available footage I could find. First came the dashcam, already in evidence, but I wanted the metadata. I extracted the GPS coordinates, time-stamped frame by. Then I requested gatecam footage from our HOA's private server. The board's IT chair, one of Karen's loyalists, claimed the files had corrupted due to power failure. Sure, power failure on a sunny, windless evening. Lucky for me. I'd been running my own ring system since the day Karen fined my daughter for parking too close to the curb. Every car that entered or left Birchwood Estates that night passed under my motion sensor. The file names were neat, like evidence labels. BWE_CAM3_1934, BWE_CAM4_1942. And there she was, Karen's white Lexus, turning erratically, seconds before the gunshot echoed in the distance. I tagged the clips, printed stills, and logged everything in a private chain of custody binder. Old habit. If this went to trial, I wasn't leaving a single crack for a defense lawyer to pry open. But the real nail came from something far simpler, an email trail. Buried in the HOA's minutes was a draft. Notice Karen had written 2 days before the shooting. Residents repeatedly ignoring HOA parking regulations near the front gate will be subject to fines and enforcement. Board approval pending. The only resident she mentioned by name. My daughter. She'd been planning to confront her long before the traffic incident. I called my friend, Deputy Stan Laird, a traffic investigator who'd worked with me for over a decade. I gave him the dashcam and my analysis. He watched in silence, arms folded. When the video ended, he exhaled slowly. She aimed low, he said. Not warning shot low. Intent to hit low. He leaned forward. You sure you want me to handle this? It could get political fast. I nodded. That's why you're the one handling it. Stan filed the report with the DA's office as an independent submission, meaning Karen couldn't spin it as personal retaliation. Meanwhile, I quietly gathered statements from neighbors, the very people Karen had bullied for years. One by one they came forward. A retired teacher who'd been fined $250 for her unauthorized birdbath. A veteran told to remove his flag because it clashed with the color palette. A mother whose HOA violation notice literally arrived on the day she moved in. They all had one thing in common: fear. But when they heard what happened to my daughter, that fear turned into something else: resolve. I set up a folder labeled Karen File and began logging everything. Photos of damaged mailboxes, fake citations, screenshots of her threatening emails, and copies of HOA bylaws she'd violated herself. Section 8.2, Firearms Prohibited on Common Property. She'd written it. Then she'd broken it. And she'd done it with a gun that wasn't even registered in her name. Stan traced the serial number. It belonged to her ex-husband, a police-issue Glock 19 he'd reported missing a year ago. Karen had never filed a transfer or theft report. When the ATF liaison confirmed the match, I felt the first real sense of calm since that night. Proof wasn't just falling into place. It was stacking layer by layer, like concrete setting around her lies. The final piece came from a witness. I didn't expect a mail carrier. He'd been parked near the HOA gate when the shooting happened. His dash cam had caught the sound and part of the reflection from Karen's passenger window. Muzzle flash, unmistakable. I logged his statement and sealed the drive and evidence tape. By then, Karen had doubled down. She'd filed a restraining order against me, claiming I was abusing power and intimidating a private citizen. Her lawyer sent me a letter full of legal threats, all bark, no bite. I didn't respond publicly. Instead, I delivered a 64-page evidence binder straight to the DA's office. Chain of custody, signed by both Stan and myself. A week later, a warrant went out for Karen's arrest. The HOA board panicked. 2 members resigned overnight. Her supporters vanished from the forum like cockroaches under a light. But Karen, she still thought she could talk her way out of it. The night before her arraignment, she hosted an emergency HOA meeting in the clubhouse, calling it a community unity gathering. I showed up in plain clothes, badge tucked away, recorder in my shirt pocket. She stood at the podium, face painted in fake calm. "This community has been torn apart by false accusations," she declared. "We need to remember who's really at fault here." She pointed straight at me. That's when I smiled, slow, steady, because the mic on her podium had been feeding directly into my recorder the whole time. Every word, every accusation. By the next morning, those words would play in open court. And the woman who shot my daughter was about to learn that in my county, truth has no HOA boundaries. The courthouse smelled like lemon polish, an old wood mix of authority and exhaustion. I'd stood in that same courtroom 100 times before, on the other side of the bench, testifying as sheriff. But that morning, I sat in the back pew, suit pressed, expression neutral. I wasn't here as law enforcement. I was here as a father. Karen arrived fashionably late, wearing a cream blazer and dark sunglasses, flanked by her attorney, a young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. She smiled at the cameras out front like it was a photo op. The arrogance hadn't cracked yet. The DA opened, clean and sharp. "Your Honor, this case is about control. A community leader who believed the rules didn't apply to her until one of her neighbors nearly died because of it." He motioned to the screen. I already knew what came next. The footage from my daughter's dashcam filled the room, every detail clear. Timestamp visible, audio crisp. Karen's Lexus, tailgating, horn blaring. Then the flash of the gunshot. My daughter's terrified gasp. The courtroom went still, except for the hum of the air vent. Karen shifted in her seat, adjusting her glasses. But her hands trembled. Then came the ring footage, the Lexus jerking across the lane. Karen's hand out the window, muzzle flash illuminating her face. Every juror leaned forward at once. Her attorney tried to object. This footage was obtained without consent. The judge cut him off. Motion denied. "This is public roadway. Counselor, continue." Next came the email, the draft HOA notice, where Karen pre-targeted my daughter. Then the ATF report, proving the Glock wasn't hers. Then the audio clip from the community unity meeting, where she'd blamed me by name, contradicting her prior statements to police. The DA paused the playback, turned to her. "Mrs. Holloway, do you deny this is your voice?" Karen tried to summon the same confidence she wore at every HOA meeting. I was misquoted, edited. "That's not the full Mrs. Holloway," the DA interrupted. "The recording came from your own microphone feed." Her lawyer slumped. Then came the witness lineup, the mail carrier, the neighbor with his phone footage, and Deputy Laird confirming the ballistic match. Each piece landed like a hammer on marble. When it was my turn on the stand, I kept it simple. "I didn't come here as sheriff," I said. "I came here as a father, but the evidence, every timestamp, every frame, every law she broke doesn't lie." Karen finally cracked during cross-examination. Her voice pitched high, defensive. She tried to hit me. "You people don't understand what it's like to be targeted." The DA stepped in smoothly. "Targeted, Mrs. Holloway. The only person with a weapon that night was you." By the time closing arguments wrapped, Karen's face was drained of color. The jury only needed an hour. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Illegal possession of a firearm. Obstruction of justice. The judge didn't waste words. "Power in a community is not a license to endanger it," he said. "You mistook authority for immunity. And now, you'll learn the difference." 5 years. No parole. The HOA, stripped of its leadership, voted to dissolve within a month. A new neighborhood association formed. This one built on transparency and sanity. The bylaws Karen had twisted into weapons were rewritten into protections. My daughter recovered slowly. The scar on her shoulder healed before the nightmares did. She sold the Civic, couldn't bear to drive it again. One afternoon, she stood by the mailbox new, freshly painted, watching kids ride bikes down Birchwood like nothing bad had ever happened here. She asked, Do you think people like her ever change? I looked at the street, at the quiet peace we'd fought for. They don't have to, I said. As long as people like us don't stop proving the truth. A few weeks later, the county awarded her a victims' rights scholarship. The local paper ran a small piece about sheriff's daughter survives HOA shooting community rebuilds after scandal. I didn't give an interview. I'd already said what needed to be said in evidence, not emotion. Karen's Lexus was impounded, then auctioned. The proceeds went toward medical costs for my daughter, a neat, poetic full circle. On my desk, I keep one photo, my daughter smiling next to the neighborhood's new sign: no gates, no guards, no HOA. Just a street name carved in wood, and one small line beneath it. Respect is the only rule. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it ends in quiet streets and clean records. The kind of silence that finally feels earned out. So, if you ever think one person can't stand up to a neighborhood bully in a power suit, think again. All it takes is patience, proof, and the will to finish what's right. If you've ever faced an HOA nightmare, or someone who thought rules didn't apply to them, drop your story below. I read every one, because some lessons like Karen's are worth retelling.